Hey, what's going on, guys? Fizz here once again. So in today's video, basically announcing the 3.19 Merry Fizmas private league. I threw out a poll on my Discord to kind of gauge interest, and I was expecting interest to be pretty low this league, even though this is technically the best league to do a private league event, since there's no gauntlet or anything. I didn't know how much people were currently interested in the game. Like, even I myself have been playing a lot of classic Wrath and not so much PoE the past week. But I threw the poll out and a lot of people seemed to want it, so I went ahead and planned out everything yesterday on stream, and we got everything up and running, and people wanted it ASAP, and I didn't really have any issues with running it ASAP simply because I'm not really doing anything else in the game right now. I do have one build, which is a Poison Sparker. If you guys want like a short mini diary on that, I can share it with you guys. I'm not going to be spending much time playing it since I'm about to do a full reset for the private league. But the build is unique and cool, I think. I wanted to do it last league, but I couldn't get a Ashes because the two I had were in normal HSF and not in the private league, the Fizmas private league I was playing in. So I was trying to farm one to do that build diary, and I unfortunately didn't drop one by the time I had to leave, because I had a trip at the end of last week. Anyway, unrelated, I guess. So if you guys want a short video diary on that before the private league goes out, let me know. It's kind of cool. Anyways, so Merry Fizmas, what is it? Basically, it's a private league that I run that has a list of banned builds, and the gimmick of this private league, if you will, is basically there's no economy. Think like Badger private league, except in hardcore, like a group HSF environment, right? With a ban list. It's effectively all it is. There is no economy whatsoever. Trading for anything is strictly forbidden. You are heavily encouraged to share items and whatnot. Like, obviously, if you need something, don't give it away to someone if you need it. But for anything you don't need or whatever, please share amongst each other. This actually has trickle-down effects everywhere. Every Fizmas league up to this point, I've been the only person like capable of like full clearing the game and bossing. So I typically play something that I'm okay with like farming bosses on, because I am usually the well, I have in every Fizmas league been the only provider of boss specific uniques and stuff like that. And I'm gonna continue it this time around. I'll go into like what I'm league starting in a minute. Anyway, so on that end for me, I am the trickle down of like leveling uniques for people, and there are tons of people who have leveling uniques and all sorts of stuff like that by like the end of day one and stuff like that. Leveling uniques to like share down with like lower people, maybe people who haven't played hardcore and want to like experience it or try it out in like a more friendly environment. Obviously the super meta stuff is banned, but you can get like leveling uniques and stuff to help you out at the start. And then all the way up, there's a small handful of people who don't really like boss, but they do they do comfortably do red maps. Like Glaz or Beach, he's someone who has very consistently been like what I consider to be like my right hand man in these private leagues, because he likes to blast T16s. He will not interact with any bosses ever, but he loves to blast T16s and just push XP. That means I get all of his guardian maps and stuff like that. So he is actually a very good funnel in terms of like helping me do crafts or farm bosses. So I don't have to do all of those, farming for all the guardian maps and stuff myself, especially if I'm supplying other people with, boss specific uniques. So there is kind of a niche for everyone, and even like I benefit from other people running stuff too. And like it just trickles all the way down. Everyone gets something out of the private league and the sharing aspect. This is one of those concepts though that like it tends to do better the more people that are involved, because there's more available items, like the supply is higher, right? Anyway, so that's basically the rules of the league, right? Group HSSF, no economy, everyone shares everything, and that's pretty much it. There's a ban list. So with that said, I'm gonna get into the ban list and my recommended build list first, and then I will go over how you can join the league, and then I will go over my league starter. So that's how we'll bang this out, assuming I remember the statement 5 minutes from now. Okay, so Merry Fizmas 3.19 rule set. So the banned builds are Spectral Helix, and to be clear, these are banned no matter what. You cannot level with these. You cannot use these for any reason, okay? So even like me playing a melee build, sucks I can't level Spectral Helix. It is what it is, but it's the easiest way to just ensure that people aren't bending the rules, right? So Spectral Helix of any kind is completely banned. Cold Dot is banned. I had a lot of people asking me, especially like on stream when I was making this, why is Cold Dot banned? People are not acknowledging that in the HSF race, Cold Dot would basically like a 98% chance that Cold Dot won the HSF Uber race, this league, if not for a bug or an unintended game design mechanic. Hu was killing Uber Cirrus, and he went to shield charge to dodge a beam, and there was an invisible wall that just completely stopped his shield charge, which is, no one really knew about that. So that was a thing. Don't know if it's like a bug or just what it was, but if it wasn't for that, like he just got stopped by thin air. There was nothing there, but it stopped him. Had he not died to that, he very likely would have won the race, beating Ben, who was playing Helix, and beating Exile, who was playing Seismic, obviously. So this means that Cold Dot, with the nerfs to other top meta skills, is actually back in contention for being one of the strongest builds in HSF. It has always been very, very strong. It was just kind of overshadowed by DD Ignite and Seismic, in my opinion, because they had so much more easily available damage and defense. But with some of the defensive nerfs we got recently with the Aura nerfs, as well as just Seismic and, excuse me, something in my eye. Seismic and DD Ignite both getting massive damage nerfs have kind of allowed Cold Dot to rise back up, especially with just how kind of safe it can be for bossing and how consistent the DPS is. So that's why. Not only did he was 6 out of 7, I believe, and he died in doing the last boss fight to a bug, but Himiko also cleared a full 7 out of 7. Mind you that 3 people in the world have killed 7 out of 7 this league in HCSSF. With the 4th being who is 6 out of 7 and likely would have cleared if not for a bug. So that means effectively 2 out of the 4 people in the whole world that have done a 7 out of 7 clear in HCSSF this league were playing Cold Dot. I think that is more than enough of a reason to ban it, which is a little bit of a shame because I maybe would have done a Cold Dot build at some point in the league if it wasn't banned. However, I think it would be hypocritical to ban some of the builds on this list and then not ban Cold Dot. That would just, it kind of reeks of bias to me. So moving on, Lightning Conduit. I don't think this should really surprise anyone. This skill is busted. Personally, I started playing it. I only got it like 75. I really didn't jive with the skill at all. It's very strong. It is very, very strong. It's just not fun to play in my opinion. That being said, it's too busted for this league. It does infinite damage with no investment really. It's crazy and can scale crazy. Seismic Trap, still banned. Still a very, very good skill. It does require a bit of investment now, but still very strong. One of the best builds in the game by far. EA, again, this got nerfed just like everything else. The nerfs did hurt it, but it is still a very, very strong build in HSF. Lightning Strike, this shouldn't really surprise anybody. I didn't ban it from the previous Fizmas League because it was like, well, you need an Omni to run it, and I'm the only source of Omnis, and like realistically, how many Omnis am I gonna have? Especially when I didn't plan on farming Exarch. Well, it turned out I dropped 1 Omni last league, and it was at the very end of the league. I only used the Omni to continue trying to farm my ashes. It was actually very depressing, because I was at like 60 to 70 eaters or something, and then I did 1 Exarch and dropped the Omni, and it felt like I had used my pity mechanic. Like all my pity RNG got deleted from that. It was very sad. This time it's on the ban list just in case. I mean, who cares, right? At the very least, if I drop an Omni, it will encourage me to do something wonky with it or give it to somebody else instead of playing Lightning Strike like I felt pressure to do last time. Next we got Righteous Fire. Yeah, this is like obviously not as strong as the other builds, especially with the nerfs to Fire Trap and some of the reservation nerfs. However, RF is one of those builds that it's very easy in hardcore to just pick it up and you'll do all right with it. It's not like super high damage, but it can map clear no problem, obviously, and then you can scale it. and it's pretty tanky for what it is, right? I banned RF simply because it is pretty strong, honestly, but also because it's just one of those builds where if people don't know what to play, a lot of people are going to default to RF. So a lot of this ban for this skill is kind of targeted at like to promote diversity and make sure that everyone isn't just playing the same skill. Because I know a lot of people would probably just default to RF, especially like if they don't know what to play. Now, that is the entire ban list. Again, friendly reminder: you cannot use any of these even while leveling or whatever. I think the one exception here would be like if you played like some type of Inquisitor that was using RF to increase your damage for like something else. Like if you're very obviously not playing an RF build, I think I would be okay with that. Like if you're playing like my EK build and you're using RF to boost your damage, or you're playing like the like a Inquisitor Miner, there have been like not corrupting fever mines, creeping frost mines and Eye Winter mines and stuff like that. I'd probably be okay with that, because that's something you can just look at their tree and their build and you can instantly know if they're building for RF or not. Granted, I don't know how many people, if any, would actually be running a setup like that, but I think I would probably be okay. Recommended builds. So I split this up into two separate categories. We have mappers and we have hybrids. So mappers are just gonna map, obviously. They're gonna map very fast, and that's their specialty. Hybrids are kind of a little bit more well-rounded. I tried to include like a pretty diverse list this time around. Make sure everyone has something that maybe is at least semi-interesting to them. This isn't to say that the mappers cannot boss, at least most of them. It's just that they will require more investment and shine in other areas of the game. That's basically all that means. You can still play most of these mappers and then still boss if you invest enough into the character, right? So why hybrid and not like bosser? It's because I don't really think like bossers don't really exist anymore in current PoE. You basically have builds that are strictly meant to map very fast, and then you have builds that can do everything and are basically well-rounded builds. That's kind of like the two variants you have. You don't really have builds anymore. It's like I only boss and I can't clear maps worth shit, and I'm super slow with anything else in the game. Everything in the game is pretty good clear nowadays. There's not, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that just has awful clear. Like the number one thing that comes to my mind would be like explosive trap, but even that doesn't actually have like really bad clear when you compare it to like boss killers of old, right? So that's why we have hybrids and mappers, right? So up first we have Hexblast Ignite, done as either an Inquisitor or an Elementalist. This is gonna be very smooth for most things in the game. It's just Ignite, you're running Prolift, Hexblast, very big AoE. Should be a very fun skill to play, especially if you haven't played Hexblast before. Do keep in mind that it's a 1-2 button playstyle, especially when you're using Doomsday. So the way Doomsday works is you'll cast it, and after 1 second, the whole area will pulse, and then you can cast Hexblast. So it's like a 1 second delay. That being said, when you use it, you are exploding an entire screen and then some. Like, I know a lot of people say screen explosion a lot, but you are literally exploding the entire screen. After that, we have Hexblast Crit as an Occultist. So I wasn't much of a believer in this build, but I did watch Pac play it a little bit at the beginning of this league, and it seems to have good damage. The only kind of caveat with this build is that you don't have Prolift like you do on Ignite, so it's going to play the same way. You're going to throw down the Doomsday, it'll hit everything, you'll cast Hexblast, it'll explode the entire screen, it does infinite damage, right? But then after that, if there's like some stragglers or whatever, or if more monsters move towards you, you won't have those Prolift clouds to just clean those up. So like clear would technically be a little bit worse. I think the damage is supposed to be better, at least over the Elementalist version of Hexblast. I'm not sure directly on this, so don't hold me to this, but it's just two different play styles. You can basically think of it like that. If you want to hit really giant, juicy crits, kind of like old slams in a way, I guess, you could try Hexblast Crit Occultist. And if you just want a nice, comfortable dot playstyle that's very consistent and still has amazing clear and comfy bossing, then, you know, go for the dot variant. It's up to you, right? Moving on from there, Explosive Trap Stab. So I almost banned this, and then I figured like the ban list was big enough. And then this also has like some specialized gear you have to get, so I think it's okay. I also don't think it's going to be super popular because playing this build is a little annoying when it comes to map clear and stuff like that. However, Explosive Trap Stab, it's got tons of damage. It's a very strong build. Basically, the one big weakness that this build is going to have, its clear is probably going to feel worse than everything else on this list. And on top of that, the big difference always between like something like Explosive Trap and Seismic is that Explosive Trap is like, you know, like a self-cast or a melee skill or whatever. If you're not standing still, you're not dealing damage. If you're not throwing traps, you're not dealing damage. Something like Seismic, even in its nerf state, you always have the damage because you throw it down and then it's a dot that lasts for a long time. Explosive Trap is not that. You throw the trap, you get the damage instantly. That's how it works, right? So anytime you are forced to move or deal with mechanics or whatever during a boss, you lose all your damage. You don't have any uptime while you're moving or anything. So that is one thing that you will have to play around. It will feel significantly different to play than something like Seismic Trap. Keep that in mind. Next up, we have my Sunder build for Berserker. If people are wanting to play melee, this build is actually getting mega buffed, by the way. So all three of these builds are actually getting mega buffed. All three of these, they're kind of like similar in terms of how you're going to build them. But on all three of these, you run Rite of Ruin. Dot effects on the ground. I've spoken about this in previous videos, but degens on the ground have been crazy this league. They buffed them like crazy, and with the patch that's going to come out that basically deletes the cold snap arch nemesis mod from the game and nerfs some of the other ones and takes the poison volatiles off of magic monsters and all sorts of stuff like that. A lot of those changes, people memed on it for it not being enough of a change, but a lot of those changes are actually very game changing for like how the minute to minute gameplay of PoE feels. This is probably worth its own video, but overall for Rite of Ruin, it's going to matter even more because you're not going to be constantly getting hit by like degen ground effects anytime you kill like a magic pack, and just being able to ignore the cold snap it's going to be huge. There's not going to be all these instances where like you're moving and then like you're not leeching anymore and then Rite of Ruin just like in your health just like falls really fast because you walked over a degen puddle. That's not going to be a thing anymore for the most part. So these builds all, in terms of survivability and just like quality of life, got actually massive buffs from the patch that's going to come out by the time this league goes out, right? So Sunder, fun if you want to play Sunder. You know, it's more like a Sunder Rage Vortex hybrid because Rage Vortex is about 2/3 of your damage on single target, depending on uptime, right? Very fun build. If you haven't tried it and you want to try something new with the melee build, probably give this one a shot. It was very fun. I played it to about a quarter through 98. Cleared all content on it. Was quite fun. Next up, we have Earthshatter Berserker. If you want to play slams, you have the slam, you know, urge. You know, typical Earthshatter Berserker. Nothing new here. Give that a shot. You can do maces or axes. I actually prefer maces on Earthshatter to make up for the AoE loss of Seismic. It just feels a lot smoother to play, as well as having like chill and stuff like that on bosses. I find helps a lot. Next up, we have Rage Vortex. So this is going to be the highest damage variant of any of these. On paper, the Sunder comes really close to this, but like in reality, how they end up playing, Rage Vortex is going to have a lot more damage for bossing and better boss uptime. However, it has the worst mapping of the three by far. A la Explosive Trap, it's actually kind of a tie between this and Explosive Trap for what's going to feel worse to map on. If you really kind of care about having a very healthy mapping to like bossing ratio, I would say probably avoid Explosive Trap and Rage Vortex because they're going to feel the worst by far when it comes to map clear. Also, one thing to note is that Rage Vortex is probably going to be the hardest of these three builds to play because you're not running Defy Pain or anything like that. You're running a Rite of Ruin and Aspect. And with Blade Storm, it's not like Sunder. Sunder, you know, is basically a range skill, right? Like you're killing stuff off screen with the wave. For Rage Vortex, you clear a lot with Rage Vortex itself, right? But also Blade Storm is going to be a large amount of your map clear on trash packs, which means you have to jump into the middle of a pack and then use Blade Storm. So you're going to be exposed to a lot more damage, and you're going to need to play cleaner on like a micro level to not get popped on this build. Next up, we have Shield Crush Impale Slayer, which is what I'm league starting. As much as I would love to just go Boneshatter and Juice, I feel like this is best. It'll be something new. It'll give people on stream something new to watch, right? And it will give me some YouTube content for, you know, you YouTube frogs, so you guys have something kind of interesting to do, since even if these are the type of builds that have been played before, right? Like it's nothing revolutionary. I feel like a lot of people like my build diary series, how how I, you know, break down the builds that I play, and then my own personal spin on the builds and how I try to make it work in my environment, right? So I feel like that would be, at the very least, good content. Next up, we have SRS. I put this in hybrid. I didn't really know if I wanted to put this in mapper or hybrid, but ultimately I put it in hybrid. This is probably going to be the weakest build on this list. I feel pretty confident saying that. However, if you want to play minions, this is your minion go-to for this league. However, if you wanted to, you could go not on hit, but what's it called? Minion instability, popcorn SRS. I don't know a lot about that, but it should have gotten significantly buffed from this patch. But it will have required uniques and stuff like that. So you would be starting out as SRS, normal hit-based SRS anyway. But yeah, if you want to shoot out skulls that will go and attack things, feel free to do that. It doesn't map super fast, but it's comfy and it's relatively safe. And I'm not really sure about its bossing. That's why it's like the lowest thing on this list. But it's too popular in HCSSF for it not to be a good build. And I'm not including like the level 70 to 100 on PoE Ninja. I'm talking 95 plus. Next, we're going to move on to the mappers. So we have Spark Inquisitor. This is nothing new. This is an old build at this point. Will map fine, can boss fine too with some investment. Poisonous Concoction. We have Occultist and Pathfinder. So honestly, here's the thing with Poisonous Concoction. It scales terribly. Like, let's be honest, it scales really badly. And I would say if you really want to play Pathfinder, go for it. But ultimately, Pathfinder is still going to struggle to boss. If you want to take a build and like really juice it, what you can do is play Pathfinder, and then with some investment, some cluster jewels, you will be able to clear all the bosses in the game. It won't be super comfy, but it's you know, you can do it. It's all right. Occultist is the opposite of that. You're not going to be doing any bossing on Occultist, but it will map like 10 times faster. Like Poison Concoction Occultist probably doesn't have competition from anything on this list in terms of clear speed, except maybe like an endgame Boneshatter setup. It's just so fast. It is ridiculous how fast it maps. It's going to be a tie here between Boneshatter and Poisonous Concoction on which is going to map faster, but they're both very, very, very fast builds. That being said, Poisonous Concoction Occultist is not going to be bossing whatever. So if you just want to map, Poisonous Concoction Occultist is a relatively strong choice. It will go very fast. Moving on from here, we have Shield Crush Bleed as a Glad. This will pound maps. If you really want to play a bleed build, I decided I should include one. This will smash maps all right. This will be pretty fast for mapping due to bleed pops. But you're not really going to be doing any bossing on this build unless you're a very good player, because all of your boss fights are going to be very long due to your low DPS. Moving on from there, we have Boneshatter, both as a Slayer and a Jug. Jug is pretty well-rounded. Slayer is going to have a lot easier access to damage and more clear speed, whereas Jug's going to have less of a gear requirement. It'll be easier to itemize for it due to not needing spell suppression. Though if you like, a lot of these are caveats. If you get hit with like any sources of pen is really bad for Jug, but you're not really going to be facing that unless you're doing like pinnacle bosses. So it really kind of comes down what you what you want to do. If you want to play Boneshatter Jug, feel free. It's perfectly viable. It's perfectly fine. If you just want to go as fast as possible and map super fast, probably just stick to Slayer since it's more suited to that. Next up, we have Bane Occultist. This is in a lot of ways just a worse Poisonous Concoction Occultist. However, the difference here is that Bane can be scaled up to do bosses, whereas Poisonous Concoction Occultist cannot. So if you want to give up a little bit of mapping for the potential to scale into bossing, then I would go Bane over Poisonous Concoction. Finally, not on the ban list is Detonate, Ignite, Elementalist specifically. So this will be a really good build if you just want to zoom maps. The prolif, obviously, on Elementalist with Convergence will be massive. You'll be able to map very, very fast on this build, but that's all it's really going to be good for. It's not going to be super suited for bossing. You could probably do some bossing on it, but there's definitely better builds for it. So I just included it in the mapper section. So that concludes everything on the list and the why. Now we'll move into how you'll apply. Not a rapper. All right, so there'll be a link down here in the description below, and this is very important, so listen up for this. You're gonna need to join the Discord. So you'll join the Discord and you'll go down here to Merry Fizmas Rules. This will have everything you just saw in this text document, So if you forget the builds or whatever, you don't need to come back to this video. You can just look at this in the Discord, right? And then I have not updated the link yet. I will do that. So these are the rules. It's an economy free experience, trading strictly forbidden, blah, blah, blah. If you play a banned skill, you will be removed from the league. And here's the important part. You need to verify your account with the Discord. This is super important. So what you're going to do is you're going to join the Discord, right? And you're going to go down to league verification. And you can see what a bunch of people have already done here. You're going to type in your PoE account name, right? When you type in your PoE account name here, we will give you the role, this purple role here, that is Merry Fizmas. And we'll put your account name in parentheses. This is so we can be more coordinated in item sharing. So we'll go in here and we'll see Darky Wizard applied. So we're going to accept his invitation, right? He has been invited to the league. And then we will give him the role here. And he now has the Merry Fizmas role in the Discord, right? So now anytime people are item sharing or whatever, they can go into this channel and be able to share with each other. And then this system came about because previously we would have like someone would have an item and then it was hard to get a hold of these people, especially like people were chasing each other down, and a lot of these people were in the Discord, but they had different names in Discord versus what they were named in game and vice versa. So this is kind of like at a more consistent way, more organized way of item sharing in the league, and just being a little bit more coordinated and having an easier time doing, you know, all the stuff that you would need to do in the private league, instead of just relying on global and asking if anyone's online at the time and hopefully getting lucky, right? So that's very, very important. So what will happen if you click the link and apply to the private league without doing that is after 24 hours, basically, we will decline your application. So you will need to come in and verify. So if your application is declined or whatever, that's fine. Just go into the league verification channel, follow the proper channels, and then reapply, and you will be accepted. It's just to prevent spam, because there are a lot of people who will like see a private league and then they'll just apply, and then they never actually play. This is just a way to, because this is crowdfunded, people are putting money into this, you know, in order so everyone can play. So we don't want to, you know, I'm a pretty small creator. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on people who aren't actually going to play. As long as people want to play, it's fine. We can buy the slots, and if there's any remaining currency that needs to be filled in order to buy more slots or to top off the crowdfunding, I always do that myself. But we just want to make sure that people's money is not being wasted, if that makes sense. So aside from that, use Merry Fizmas item sharing, this channel down here that I just showed, to announce rare strong items you find and you don't want or need, and you're okay with handing it off to someone else. We're also going to be using the trade link, which is just Path of Exile trade. So if you go up here and you go to trade, you can trade in private leagues. So make sure you're using the trade site for that. People should be listing what they have as well. That is heavily encouraged. That way, you know, if you have an item or whatever and someone needs it, they can just, you know, have you on, and then they can find your item on the trade site, right? Because if you go in here to the trade site, in the leagues right here, the private league will show up, right? So you can go into the private league and then you can check offline. And if someone's offline and they have an item you need, what you can do is you can go into the item sharing and at them, or you can DM them, hey, when you're online, can you give me this item? Since everyone's account names are in the Discord. See, more organized and easier to actually, you know, collaborate there. Anyway, that's basically everything. Global's 1268. That is the global channel for the private league. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask down below. How far in are we? 30 minutes. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll go. Okay, so basically my league starter is going to be Shield Crush Slayer. I'll be starting out Impale. What is this? Yeah, I'm gonna be starting out Impale with precise technique, and then hopefully transitioning into a crit based build. The crit version that I POB'd is absolutely insane. I still, like I said in the Jug video, I still haven't tried out the Panopticon Ironwood strat. It's not really for Panopticon, it's for Ironwood, so your totems stay alive. You just take Panopticon because it's right there. So I still haven't tried this. I'm gonna try it on this character. If I end up feeling like it's not worth it, I'm gonna take those 5 points out and put them somewhere else. But I am accounting for its existence on the trees that I've built. So this is the non-crit version. Save just in case. And then my crit version is pretty good. So I have like a crit version without I have a crit version. I have a crit version with Divergent Shield Crush because I don't know if I'm gonna farm ice. And then I have a Shield Crush version with Ashes. And Divergent Shield Crush with Ashes is insane. But there's not a whole lot that changes. It's like very minor things that that change on the build based on based on getting the Emperor's Vigilance and stuff like that I need to run the crit build. Overall though, the build looks really good. As you can see, its EHP is pretty good. This is DPS while clearing. Like this does make some assumptions like killing enemies recently and whatnot, and having War Banner stack. So your actual boss DPS isn't this. This is also not the Ashes variant. The Ashes variant with like wall clearing is like 14 mil DPS. And you can get some pretty crazy burst if you do use Berserk. I'm still undecided on whether or not I'm going to use it though, simply because I only have one source of rage generation. Past that though, I mean, the build's really strong. If you uncheck like basically everything that won't have 100% uptime in the config, you still got like a solid on this current tree, which is not Ashes. You still have like a solid like 7-ish plus mil bossing DPS, which is honestly pretty good. That means over the course of a fight, it's definitely dealing more damage than Boneshatter would, which is very cool. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I'm gonna be league starting. Like I said, it's mostly because like I would love to just zoom on Boneshatter, but this is something new and it'll give content. That's basically the TLDR. I'm starting Shield Crush. It's my own variant of the build. It looks pretty good on paper. It's pretty strong before you get anything, and then once you get the Threshold Jewel and Emperor's Vigilance and some other required uniques, then it really pops off. This is a build that I could probably do in base league too, because I'm pretty sure I have all or most of the required uniques to run it. And then I don't have a brutal restraint, I don't think. But yeah, I mean farming Legion's easy. Anyway, that's everything. If you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll answer all the questions best I can. That's all I really got. As usual, stream on Twitch, links are in description, as they always are. Discord is mandatory for this, so please join the Discord if you plan on playing in the private league and following the appropriate channels to get into the private league. And Twitter, because I'm on there also. Anyway, that's all I really got. I'm not gonna plug subs or whatever because this isn't really content. This is just explaining the private league. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Let me know if you plan on playing, if you're excited to play, or what you plan on league starting. With that being said, I think that's the end of the video. Cheers, guys. I'll see you in the next one.